Welcome back, friends. Today's video is going to be a little bit different, and I've been hesitating to make this one for a while because it may not go over so well with Giants. I've been doing some research into them because I had some questions and I wasn't satisfied with any of the answers I'd seen. And while researching, I think I found some problems with Giants and Farming Simulator that make me think that all the hype around the new FS25 might be unfounded. So I wanted to share this with everyone because I think gaming industry accountability and transparency is very important, especially from companies that insist that players are their main focus. I've spent a lot of time finding and compiling info as well as making this video, so I am going to ask two easy things from you for watching this video. Please hit the subscribe button below, and secondly, share this video with every Farming Simulator content creator and communities that you know. I think that everyone deserves to know this info, and it wasn't exactly quick or easy to find. So let's get into it. To start with, everything in this video is my opinion, which has been informed by the articles and videos that I've been able to find. Secondly, I think Farming Simulator 22 is a fantastic game, and I hope that Farming Simulator 25 will be also. I believe the future is always influenced by the past, so let's take a look at some of the history of Giant Software. It started as a very small group, around 2 to 4 people from what I can find. I've seen some conflicting information on this, that it was started by 2, but that their game engine may have been made by 4 people, so take it as you will. Nonetheless, it was small. The first few projects seem to have never come to fruition, but that's not really a big surprise since at the time it wasn't easy to start in indie gaming, so it's not a big deal. Next, according to Giant CEO and founder, Christian Amann.
So, in 2007, a friend, Martin Berwolf, suggested us to create Farming Simulator. So he had this idea. He was pretty much obsessed by this idea to create this game because he loved such a game to play. And so what we did, we concluded a bit of research, and we also launched a web forum with a small prototype of a Farming Simulator game. And through that feedback we got, and also through market research, we were convinced that there's a potential and also demand for such a game in the market. So this was pretty much the start.
So it wasn't even their idea. And according to Giant CTO Stefan Geiger.
Well, I mean, before Farming Simulator, we actually worked more on like an RPG title.
They developed a concept and managed to get a contract with a publisher, but they didn't really get very long to develop the game. 9 months later, Farming Simulator 08 was released.
So it took us about 9 months of development time, and we could release the first version April 14th, 2008, and it really sold a lot. So we sold for the first version, which was only pretty much sold physical and only in Europe, 250,000 units. And this was really crazy.
FS08 was a very basic game in my opinion. It only included one crop and the graphics were subpar, but not bad for an indie simulation game at the time. It's still impressive though that they could build an entire game within 9 months with such a small team.
It was a true independent game development, to say. So we lived in a shared apartment to save costs, and we did everything beside our day jobs. So I was still working for NVIDIA at that point, part-time, and Stefan was at university finishing his master's degree.
But they already had the game engine, the one that they were using for the earlier failed games, so they probably just recycled their game engine, which was a fairly common strategy, and really it still is. Farming Simulator 09 releases the next year, with some updates to the game and a remastered map. I kind of think it's the Farming Simulator that should have been released to begin with, which means FS08 was essentially just a proof of concept that got thrown out to the market as quickly as it could to see if the game would sell. This all starts to seem very concerning to me. I love FS22, it's a great game, but it really is lacking in many aspects, especially in graphics and physics, which I think most players can agree with. I've seen firsthand that as a small company grows, owners and executives can start to lose focus on some aspects of their company at the detriment to customers. It's the same reason why we get such toxic monetization policies in some games. So let's take a look at this idea in terms of a software company. In my mind, there are three main parts to their business when you look at it. We have the business and marketing side, which focuses on making money, the development and design side, which focuses on making great software, and the customer service and community side, which focuses on making customers happy and engaged. There can only be so much focus that you put on each part within your company culture, which is going to influence everything. So it's a balancing act. And you can do all of them equally, but if you start putting more focus on one, you have to take it away from somewhere else. It's just that you only can do so much. So why does this make me worried when it comes to Farming Simulator? Well, there's a few things that stand out to me as red flags. First off, let's take a look at the game engine.
2007, long time ago. There were a lot of challenges 2007 to enter the games market as a fresh developer, indie developer, so to say. And there's another big major obstacle to take. It was the game engine itself. So game engines like Unity and Unreal, they were not accessible at that point. Unity didn't really exist, and Unreal Engine was too expensive at that point for us to license. So those were the challenges we had to overcome.
But that's not quite right. Unity was released in 2005.
So in 2007, a friend, Martin Berwolf, suggested us to create farming simulators.
While Giants release coordinator Ken Burgess states,
so at the start of everything, we of course have our own proprietary engine, the Giants engine. The most important thing since 2008 for us has always been we want to be in full control. So no dependencies or middleware is used other than like open source libraries that we can tie into our own engine as well. And also Farming Simulator as a sandbox game, it's very specific in partly what it needs and how it works. So hence this is where our engine basically is used for.
I think it's probably a money issue. While the reasons from Giants could be the case, they are really using recycled game engine that was built for an RPG, not a simulation game. And if we look at some of the games from 2008 that were running better game engines, well, you can clearly see a quality difference. Not to mention the difference of what high-end studios were capable of at the time with very impressive in-game physics, like you see in Half-Life 2, Garry's Mod, and Crysis. If Giants were to start using Unreal Engine or CryEngine, they could probably improve performance, graphics, and quality. This switch would probably take more time for them to release the next game than the now standard 3 years between games, because their developers are all used to working on the current Giants Engine 9 and would have to learn how to use the new engine and build a new version of the game in it. Would that really be such a bad thing though? Having a Farming Simulator version last 4 or even 6 years if the next one looks like a AAA title with realistic graphics and realistic physics? Imagine if a truckload of wheat consisted of actual grains of wheat instead of the clunky texture that just raises and lowers. You take a turn too fast and you may have some of the wheat spill out, or you flip it over and you'll have to scoop it off the ground in order to refill the trailer. Realists would love it, and what young kid wouldn't want to see just how much they can dump out of the trailer on the way to sell it while speeding and swerving around traffic GTA style? Next, let's take a look at the way they do their licensing deals. If you build a game, or you make a movie or a TV show, and you want to include someone's product, you have to get their permission. Usually this is through a licensing deal. So you go to them and you work out a contract. If you're new, or if it's something that the manufacturer isn't interested in, this typically means that you have to agree to pay them to be able to use their logos and such. It's why you see a lot of made-up brands in TV shows like Let's Chips and Duff Beer. So how do Farming Simulator licensing deals work? Well, according to Stefan Geiger, is quoted in a 2020 VentureBeat article, for the manufacturers, it was a tricky thing to convince them that we weren't part of a regular toy company because they all pay those manufacturers for the brand name. But that wouldn't have been possible for us to pay every brand we had, even if it was just a small percentage of our revenue. So instead of doing a typical licensing deal, they were basically trying to sell manufacturers a marketing deal. Product placement within the game to help boost the brand's awareness and sales. And in fact, they've done so well with this that according to Giants, the interest from manufacturers provides enough revenue to cover the cost of game development. And in a 2023 article in The Observer, Giants marketing manager Wolfgang Ebert said, "Today, we have to consider who we can integrate and what benefit there is to the game. We have many brands waiting to be included." This means that Farming Simulator is paid for before it even comes out, and they have more manufacturers waiting for product placement deals. That is really, really impressive from a business standpoint. Also in the article, though, Giants claims to only be able to include about 500 products in the PC and console games. Now, this doesn't make sense to me. If you're making enough revenue off of your marketing deals to pay for the game development, that means it isn't a labor issue. The marketing deal itself pays for all of the labor needed. So either it's an issue with the game engine not being able to support the machines and implements, which kind of seems unlikely because of how many mods exist and can be installed on PC at once, or this is a way to create artificial scarcity, meaning that by setting a limit, they are increasing the value of a brand getting products into the game. They can charge more and they can pressure brands into deals faster because once these 500 slots are filled up, sorry, we won't take any more. Now, I know what you may be thinking. The other option with that problem is workload. That could be the case, but really it would just kind of mean that it would take longer between games, which I don't think would be a bad thing because this would give other members of the Giants team more time to create and implement new innovative features in the base game. This marketing process also creates a secondary problem though. When you're taking money from someone, turning them into a customer, you're not beholden to them. You have to focus on what they want and how they want it.
As you can see on the right side, that is an example of which different wheel configurations we have. But yeah, that's only one brand, so you have that for all the tire brands we have in the game. Yeah, and you also have rules to define which tires you want to use on the vehicle, because yeah, you need to respect what the manufacturers say. If they tell you that only a certain tire can be on the vehicle, then you have to respect that and add a rule for that to only use that. So we basically don't have real damage on the tractors, so we have some kind of visual damage, so you have like small little scratches on the vehicles, but we have no real damage, so you cannot deform the meshes, because that's not what the manufacturers of the tractors want. So yeah.
As noted by Stefan Morris, Giants Gameplay programmer and lead integrator. If it were a typical licensing deal, they probably wouldn't care. Look at racing games. As you're playing, tires wear out, gas runs out, and if you hit something, the car gets damaged. It's not always the most realistic, but more than just dirt and worn paint. And all the cars are branded in racing games. The executives at Giants are very impressive, managing the deals they have and developing a very niche game that they've turned into an international phenomenon is amazing. They are making a ton of profit off of it too. I can't tell you how much exactly because they are a private company, so I have no way of finding that out. But if you consider that FS22 was basically paid off before it ever even launched, that means all the sales and probably the sales of all the DLC was almost pure profit. They do have to keep paying for support and paying for modders. But if you look at Steam database, at launch, they had over 105,000 players on Steam alone. So just on Steam, they made over $4.7 million by launch. Now, considering that they're also available on Xbox, PlayStation, Epic Games, physical disc, and on their own website, I would think that it's safe to assume that on launch they made at least around $10 million. And remember, that's just on launch. By the end of 2023, Giants advertises that they had over 6 million sales. So what are the chances that they don't have the money for game engines, licensing deals, and a little bit of extra time for game development? And what about one of the biggest complaints by console players? Mods. It's not a big secret, even to Giants, that they owe a large part of their success to modders.
So for us, it was kind of natural that modding needs to be part of the game as well, because we also see kind of all the benefits from it that kind of gives the players that long-term playability and having the options to fully customize their game to what they like it. And also it kind of gives a lot of free content for us because we've not been able to, or probably no company is able to produce that much content that the community is able to. Also, we introduced the rewards program. So we do pay the modders based on the kind of the popularity of their mods. So that's actually going to be a couple $1,000 a month for the most popular mods. So there's even some teams that kind of work almost professionally for those mods now.
So why don't we have the same mods on consoles on PC? The most common answer is that script mods are not allowed on consoles, so too bad.
And but of course, there's a couple technical restrictions as well on that. Like there's no option to compile shaders on those platforms, and also we're not allowed to ship custom scripts there.
The problem with this answer is that it only appears to be half right. Now, I admit I don't work at Microsoft and I haven't heard from anyone on either the Microsoft or Giants team about their mod integrations, but multiple games that have mods on Xbox allow script mods. Now, this is largely Bethesda games, which is now owned by Microsoft, but they were allowed to add script mods through their in-game mod manager even before the Microsoft acquisition. This suggests Microsoft is allowing it as long as they're vetted by the game company. Sony is a different story. They've always been a no-go, not allowing any external scripts, textures, or any other sort of external assets that aren't in the game. They normally quote security reasons, but why does that mean Xbox users should suffer? It could be that part of a deal made with Sony to get mods to PlayStation is to not allow anything on Xbox that isn't allowed by PlayStation requirements. It could be that Microsoft's handing out different rules to different developers, or it could be that Giants doesn't want to have to manage 3 separate tiers of content. This is much easier and simpler to say that it has to meet the requirements of both instead of having 3 tiers, PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. But again, the amount of money Farming Simulator generates and the dependency that they have on mods and modders, why not spend the extra money and labor needed to give players everything they could possibly get, especially when it's causing their game to basically get review bombed with only a 3.7 out of 5 rating on Xbox, with a 20% 1-star rating, mostly complaining about the lack of mods versus PC, compared to a 92% positive rating on Steam. And yes, the majority of mods available on ModHub are crossplay, but with PC-only mods usually being the most innovative and useful. I think Giant should be able to implement a lot more of what the community wants instead of coming up with reasons things aren't possible. We have seen bigger innovation in free mods than we have in paid DLC. And yes, there is a balance to maintain between realism and entertainment, but I can't see why all the features can't be toggleable, or that Giants can't just make an arcade mode along with a realistic mode. I feel like the expectation should be that every single mod and all base game and DLC equipment in FS22 should be included in Farming Simulator 25. Plus, enough new, innovative content, better graphics, and performance to justify having a new version. So tell me what you think. Is Giants focusing on the wrong things, or am I just crazy? And mostly, how hopeful and excited are you for FS25? Thanks for watching. Please give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and definitely share this video anywhere you can think to. Have a great day, and happy gaming.